Namaskar and namaste, everyone out there. Welcome to Film Shrapnel. I'm your co-host Tobias, and I'm joined by your other co-host Craig.
How's
Hello,
it
Craig.
going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Trying to survive in this heat wave in Europe right now.
Yeah, good luck, man.
Sweaty as hell, but I'm alive.
Well, you know, I'm sure you'll survive. I'm sure you'll survive. Just turn on the AC, man. Craig has AC, but he doesn't use it.
I'm not allowed,
No,
unfortunately.
saving them pennies. Saving them pennies.
Yeah. Uh,
So today, guys, we have a very special film. I'm quite excited to do this. I've been nagging Craig to do this film for how long have we been talking about this film, Craig?
about a week.
Shut
nah,
up.
nah. We've been talking about it for maybe about a month or two, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Gangubai. Uh, Craig, I sort of brought this film to your attention after we watched RRR, and what's her name, Alia Bhatt,
Yeah.
uh, Caesar. She's Gangubai in this. She's great in this. I really like this film.
hmm
Uh, what do you what do you think of it? What's your opening thoughts on Gangubai?
My initial thoughts are it's like it seems to be continuing this kind of trend of like massive like Indian films that have like really big budget that seem to be, I don't know, getting like international attention. So yeah, I was pretty excited to see this film. It's a biopic based on a real
Yeah.
person.
Hmm.
Alia Bhatt is great in it. It's a bit different than a lot of Indian stuff I've seen. Not that I've seen a ton of Indian stuff before, but it's a bit different. Like one of the initial things before we get into the real story that I noticed, there's not so much singing and dancing. There are a
Again,
few
right?
songs. Yeah, there are a few. I was actually quite
Again,
surprised.
yeah. I think there's maybe three or four, something like that, and it's a three like 2.5 hour movie. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's not oversaturated with songs or musical numbers at all, and most of them are sort of written into the story anyway.
Yeah, they come across quite naturally within it.
Mm,
And also, we don't have like the lead actors participating in the songs. I think it's usually like there's a scene where there's a wedding, and the performer at the wedding is singing. Or there, if there
yeah.
is a song happening, it's like in the background. If you don't, it's not the main
Mm.
characters who are doing it. Like for example, RRR,
Well,
you had the two lead guys pretty much in every single song. They're not only acting, but they're
yeah.
performing, and you know what I
Well,
mean.
true, but like Alia Bhatt does do a lot of the dancing. I think I seem
Yeah,
to recall her featuring in the dancing, but yeah, she doesn't sing at all, does she?
yeah. Uh, shall we explain this story quickly for the people that don't know?
All right, let's do like a super quick rundown.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's basically about a woman who brings about like equality for prostitutes, tries to legalize prostitution in this sort of district. Is it in Mumbai? Because they call her
Yes.
the Queen of Mumbai. So it's a district of Mumbai called. I've written it down, but I've spelt it like 10 different ways, and I don't know how to say the name of this place. Kamitpura, I think, is the name of the area. Kamitpura, although, like I say, I'm butchering the pronunciation of that. Um, so yeah, because this is like the red light district of Mumbai, and this sort of like Gangubai, she's basically like a mamacita in it. Like she's like she looks after the girls. She's basically their pimp. She's the mama. Um, but she's like all about protecting them and treating it like a business and giving them equality and rights. They didn't have any real rights. They couldn't even get bank accounts.
Mm.
So the idea, that what she wants to do is help these girls. um and like even she's like, I have dreams of getting out of this business, but even if she had the opportunity, she'd probably stick around because she loves these girls. She's grown to,
They're
you know,
dependent on
these,
her.
yeah, they're dependent on her, and she's their family, So yeah, even if she had the chance to leave, she wouldn't. Uh, that's pretty much the whole film in a nutshell, but we can break it down properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. It's a good film. It's a really good film, and I find it interesting because they keep running with this motif that uh, like she wanted to be a movie star. They keep reminding you that she wants to be a movie star. Anytime she features on like a magazine or a poster, there's some mention, it's like, oh, you look like a movie star or whatever. And then right at the end of the movie, like you get this sort of, shot that's framed just like a sort of Bollywood starlet on a poster.
Yeah. And
Like, yeah, sorry, go on.
I think at the end they also mention there's a cinema somewhere in the neighborhood where there was a poster of her put up and it's never been taken down or something.
Yeah, in
Or
50 years.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. One thing I will mention though about this, because like it's supposed to be a biopic, and it got like I actually read a bit about Gangubai, the real Gangubai, because I think they changed her name
Ooh.
slightly.
Oh,
Uh,
I am intrigued. Go on. Hit me with your trivia.
well, like so, pretty much the film does go really through her life. So basically, she's sold into prostitution at a young age by her husband, and she later, yeah, does become like I guess, like the madam of
Yeah.
this area, and slowly becomes like very influential. She was backed by someone. I think that like there is one character in the film who, by the way, looks very familiar, and I'm not sure if he's also in RRR. What was his name?
The the
Rahim.
the the, the dude with the sunglasses, the cool guy, the
Yeah,
Muslim dude. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I wrote that down. I'm pretty sure he's Ram's. The actor who plays him is Ram's dad in RRR. I'm pretty sure.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I was like, I've definitely seen this guy before. By the way,
Yeah.
speaking of
I,
the relationship between the two films, RRR and this film, the first thing I noticed that I put in my notes is that isn't it the same production company? Because I remember the introduction, this very big special effects heavy. There's some guy walking through all these different environments. Like, do you know what I mean? Like at the very beginning of the film.
yeah. I wasn't really taking much notice. I don't
Ah,
think. But yeah,
so
to be fair though, they do have a similar sort of feel, don't they? Maybe it wouldn't surprise me if this was the same production company. Certainly, it wouldn't surprise me if the same people worked on it, or a lot of the same people worked on it. We've certainly got some actors that are in both, so
hmm.
yeah, certainly wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously, I've no idea. I don't know what language they're speaking. Obviously, in RRR, it's Telugu. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's Telugu, something
Yeah.
like that. I wonder if is this Hindi? Is this Punjabi? Like what
I,
language?
I think it's Hindi. I think it's written. It's a Hindi film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't too
Uh
sure because yeah, like Mumbai. I always thought that's like a sort of Hindi speaking area, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know.
we need to learn more about India.
This is
Um,
it. Yeah, yeah. I think after watching RRR and Gangubai, I'm definitely gonna do a visit to India. I'm so interested. People out there, those of you listening that are fans, maybe some of our Indian audience, I'm going to come visit. So send over some suggestions in the comments. I'll link like a question, like what recommendations for India. Yeah, that'll be fun. I definitely want to learn more about India.
yeah. But so the reason I bring up like the Wikipedia about the real Gangabai
Sure.
is that so there's like different phases of her life that we kind of go through in the film, like her rising in the neighborhood. I'm sorry, I don't know how you pronounce it. Kamapura? Kamapura? Apologies again. I'm probably butchering it worse than
Yeah,
Tobias's. Um, so
Kamit Tapura, something like that.
yeah, So then she rises to kind of become the most dominant person there, the dominant, like controlling maybe not controlling the entire sex trade there, but most of it. And I even see that she was had connections to drug dealing as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's one phase of her life. Then you have the other phase where there's all this stuff about this school that's nearby, very close to the
Oh
neighborhood, and
yeah.
they want to basically get rid of the neighborhood because it's a bad influence on the kids, and she manages to prevent that from happening. And the argument's quite makes sense. Like, and I've heard this argument with other stuff as well. Like, if you just like demolish, because something is illegal, prostitution for in this case. If you just remove the area where it's happening, what happens? Do you think that it's just gone? No crime will happen? No, the crime will just move. It will happen
Hmm.
somewhere else. What happens to all the displaced people? All the women, the prostitutes just become homeless, and then
Yeah.
you might just make the problem worse. If you have a place like this neighborhood where they're kind of contained and this is just their area, you kind of keep it tight. Like, I remember, I'll bring up a good example of this I've seen before. I'm still nagging you to watch The Wire. So in The Wire, I'm going to
Yes.
tell you this now because I know you won't actually watch it. Season 3 of The Wire, there is one guy who's like kind of like a police commissioner of one area of
Right.
Baltimore, like the one district of it, and they're always been pushed like to lower crime, lower the the drug dealing, lower the murder rate and everything. And so he has this crazy idea. He's almost at the end of retirement, by the way. Fuck it, like this whole area near in my district that's basically abandoned because Baltimore has a big problem with like people leaving. Like, it's really empty in some areas. So it's okay, this area, no one lives on this street. Tell the drug dealers to go here and they can deal here. And it's really crazy season because like it's like a social experiment. And what they do, so all the drug dealers are forced into this area where they deal drugs. And what happens is that all the other areas in his district, everything goes down, all the crime goes down, and like by the end of the season, it becomes this big like thing. Like the uh, the mayor finds out and everything, and like, okay, we've got to stop to this because we're just basically legalizing drugs. The government's gonna like not fund us and stuff, so like they have to get rid of it all. And what happens is everyone just starts doing drugs everywhere else again. So like
Yeah.
it's an interesting idea. I think actually in Germany they have a similar thing. Well, at least I was reading about this. Like, there was one park somewhere in Berlin where instead of like just trying to always arrest the drug dealers, they say, look, at that part of the park you can deal drugs. The rest of the park you don't deal drugs, pretty much. Like, kind of semi legalizing it or like turning a blind eye in a kind of way. Because like, yeah, I think people start to realize that when you make something that people are always going to look for completely illegal, it doesn't really work. It just kind of is
No.
just always chasing it. You know what I mean? So it's an
Yeah.
interesting
Well,
idea.
they'll find a way. I mean, they sort of because they make mention of that in this film with the prohibition on alcohol.
Hmm.
There's a that I'm pretty sure because they get raided, don't they, for selling alcohol?
Yeah.
Uh, the I forget the guy's name again, but he's got like a alcohol business that he's running through the brothel.
I
Uh,
think it's Raheem, isn't it?
Raheem. Um, so yeah, the those themes do bleed into this. They don't do drugs, but they do it with alcohol.
Hmm. And then, so to get back, I'm going on a massive tangent, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
I had.
Uh,
That's what I was trying to bring it back to the. That was like an active leap back to the movie that I just presented
yeah.
for you.
Sorry. Uh, there's so much to say. So basically, the point I'm trying to make is that you could read about her life on Wikipedia. And so basically, it kind of follows her life from when she first got into prostitution. And like the biggest, I think the most famous thing about her is that supposedly she got to present her case to the Prime Minister, Nehru, at the time, like trying to get prostitution legalized, which is
Right.
like a massive thing. Obviously, it didn't happen. But the thing that I keep thinking about in this film is that shouldn't like, and I know Ali Bhatt is great in this, but I think that they should probably have made her like look a little bit older as time went on, because it feels like they've crammed someone's whole life into like a year.
Yeah, like she doesn't seem to get older than 27. Like she
Yeah.
makes mention at one point that she's 27. I think that's when the auntie dies, Aunt Sheila dies. She says she's 27, and she doesn't look any older throughout the rest of the movie. So
Mm,
yeah, it's all like how, yeah, what's the period of time this all took place in?
yeah.
you know that, and we know that there are jumps in time because like for example, towards the end, she sort of partners up with someone and he's like, if you help me win this election, I'll get you an audience with the prime minister, basically. And then the next scene is her meeting the prime minister, so we know a large passage of time has taken place between the two scenes. But it's hard to really gauge just how long this story is meant to take place over. What is the period of time that this story takes place? It's hard to say. It's
Mm.
is it a year? Is it like 2 months? I don't know. Is it a couple of years? Is she meant to be in her 40s by the end of the movie? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you one
You're
thing. So at the end of towards the end of the film, where she's having this big talk in front of all these journalists,
yeah,
do you remember she asked for a chair to sit down, and I keep
yeah,
thinking like she's probably quite old at this point. I think probably there is a famous picture of her sitting down on the chair somewhere, talking on a microphone. So I think that was kind of reference to that. But the fact is, but
yeah.
she doesn't look old. She doesn't look like she needs to sit down.
Yeah, she doesn't look like her knees are about to give way.
Yeah.
I think the best way to describe this movie to people, like in a nutshell. So for those of you who haven't seen the movie, this is imagine if Pretty Woman and The Godfather had morphed into a movie with an Indian setting, and that's this movie.
Interesting, interesting. I did
It
actually quite
is.
like the crime element of this film. I think that was done quite nicely, and it felt quite um,
She's walking
plausible.
around. She's walking around the streets like fucking Marlon Brando. She's super respected, but she's obviously you know the main prostitute. So
Hmm.
it's an industry that people look down on, but like for whatever reason, she just has loads of respect from everyone around
Yeah, yeah, because
because
you,
she commands that respect. You know, she demands it. She enforces it.
yeah. One thing, by the way, I also wrote. So, uh, yes, I think is it Sheila dies, the previous madam,
I mean, that's what the
and
subtitles call her. I
yeah,
didn't I didn't notice anyone say the word Sheila, but the
maybe it's the
subtitle,
pronunciation. I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe, but the subtitles certainly said Sheila. Yeah,
So she dies, and the women vote that actually she's called Gangu at the time, and then she becomes Gangubai when she becomes the madam. Uh, they vote for her to become the leader because they kind of establish kind of earlier on that she's a bit of a leader. She has that natural ability
yeah.
because people kind of seem to ask what to do, and like she pretty much decides, and like
What?
she has some dreams as well. And then like I was thinking about that and how she kind of becomes like tied to the area because she was voted into this kind of position, and like
Yeah.
so I think she felt like that she owes it to the people to stay and to be the leader because they put her in this position, which is
Well, yeah,
interesting.
but also she's the one that sort of like protected them and shown that they can be independent. They don't have to answer to anyone, even when it came to Sheila. Like, you know, she's the one who's like, right, well, we're having a day off. Screw you.
Yeah,
You should
yeah,
have a day off. You're looking tired too. So she's the one that's fighting for them to have a say about anything. So yeah, when she realizes how much she means to them, it's like she can't possibly not take this role. Um, Let's start from like the beginning of the film, because we start on this girl. She's only young, uh, and they're like putting makeup on her, and then there's this like reverse shot of like maybe 7 or 8 women like just staring at her, and they're like piercing her nose, and I think they're preparing her to become a prostitute, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like she's like not game for it, as you would imagine. uh and so they get Gangubai to come in to like talk to her, and then that's how we sort of get the first half of the film, like this flashback of basically Gangubai telling this girl her life story. And like the whole point of this is to be like, do you want to be a prostitute or not? And it's like, I mean, do you really need to tell her your life story? To like, she's clearly not into this career opportunity. Like, you know, like it's like a thanks but no thanks. Like she clearly isn't interested, but you're still going to tell her your life story, for the benefit of us, the viewer. But yeah, I felt it was a bit unnecessary, especially when this kid clearly has no interest. And then he returned to the present, and then Gangabai gives her 2 candies, and she's like, one is like just a normal candy, I think she said, but the other one will be poison, and like, so you can kill yourself and you don't have to do this job. And she takes the poison candy. Now, obviously, neither of them were poisoned, but that's when Gangabai is like, yeah, this kid shouldn't be a prostitute. And it's like, well, no shit. No shit. Like, from the outset, she shouldn't have been one. So, yeah, like, I thought it was a bit strange how some of that was presented. But overall, like, the message is clear. Like, it's like Gangabai is this sort of empowered woman, and she's made herself empowered through the shit hand that life dealt her, basically. Like, I don't think she, because I was going to ask you, do you think they glamorize prostitution? I wrote down here that like I don't think they glamorize it, because they
Mm.
make it look very dark. They don't make it look very nice at all in a lot of places.
Well,
And a lot of what they talk about is about equality and integrity, and that's what they're fighting for. But then when Gangabai herself is presented, she is always presented very glam, and like, but there's some shots of her like laying back on a stool or something, and there's this just beam of light shining down on her, like, so there are, and then obviously her climb in politics as well. Like, a lot of this does uh, show a glamorous side to her life, not prostitution, but to her life.
mm,
However, do you think the film may accidentally be
I don't think that it glamorizes it. Uh,
no?
but I do feel that sometimes it was a bit too lighthearted. Like,
Well, this is it. That this is the. I think that's the element that makes it feel that there's something there that doesn't quite work for me.
hmm. They try to make her seem a bit like, I think when sometimes when she's very tough, it's almost like she's being mean at times, and I think this is probably like the limit that they really go with it. But I think probably she would have been a lot, because bear in mind she's still working within a criminal, uh,
Industry.
yeah, and she was involved in alcohol sale when it was illegal, and she was involved potentially in drug dealing from what I've read on Wikipedia, but I might be wrong on that. So I don't know. Like, you can't complete. She's a complicated person. Like,
Mm.
she's not, and that's kind of quite realistic, I think, in some ways. But yeah, this film kind of makes her look a bit too saint-like, if you will, here and there. Um, but I feel that with a lot of stuff I have seen from Indian cinema, that the good guys are always like almost perfect.
Yeah.
they're very strong. They're always the good guy is always a really good guy, you know. Um, so yeah, maybe they could have toned it down a little bit here and there. Uh, I don't know.
'Cause I think it could have afforded to be a bit darker.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think this is a very dark topic, and I don't
Yeah.
think you should. I think it's quite brave, by the way, because I don't think there's many films in Indian cinema that tackle such probably quite controversial topic, prostitution.
Yeah,
Um,
you would imagine yeah, because I think they said that like her story yeah hasn't really been like uh one that's been publicized. It's one that's sort of passed down through word of mouth.
mm,
Is that was the impression I got from the monologue at the end, the sort of voiceover, the narration.
yeah, so she deserves a film. It's just now we're at a point where people feel more comfortable, I guess, talking about it. So like now
Yeah,
that's good. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're from the West and we're more open to talking about these kind of things. For us, it feels like there probably should be. I don't know. It should be darker. Maybe I don't know. But that's just our approach. That's just what we from our understanding of cinema. So maybe yeah, could be
yeah.
darker, but
I definitely make it darker. Like certainly, like because some of the soundtrack feels like a Hans Zimmer, Christopher Nolan movie, and it's like, well, you could have shot it like that too. I was going to say her transformation. So obviously, when she's first sold into the brothel, the
Mhm.
she's bought for what 1,000 rupees. But like that fella that she's running away with, you can just tell from the get go that he's trouble. Do you remember this guy? And I'm like, he's the sort. He's like, oh, do you have your money and your jewels? And it's like, whoa, big red flag. And then like he takes you to a fucking brothel, and he's like, hang on, I'll just go get the producer, and we'll start shooting in a minute. Like big red flag.
Yeah, but I think she's supposed to be young though. She's probably even a teenager, just got married. She's
Yeah, bless
naive.
her
She
heart.
doesn't know. Yeah.
I feel really bad for her in this scene because all the girls are, stood around and they know exactly what's going on, and she's just they lock her in a room or something, right, for 2 days with no food or water.
Mm,
Uh,
to break her spirit.
Brutal, absolutely brutal. And then when I thought it was a really sort of heart, it's a bit soul crushing, isn't it? Like the scene where she stands outside the brothel and then all the girls sort of come around her and sort of help mold her into like, oh, you shouldn't stand like that. They physically move her, they physically manipulate her to be more sort of alluring. Um, and then she gets her first client, and then what she burns the pay that she burns the salary that she makes, and she's like, this is like the death of her name was Ganga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Gangu. No, it was Ganga, and then she
Ganga.
changes it to Ganga, and then she changes it to Gangu. uh and it's like, this is like a rebirth. She's had to let her old self die so she can live with this new self.
Mm-hmm.
um but I had written down, that's not a huge name change, is it? Like it you're about to reinvent yourself, and like you've went from Ganga to Gangu, and I'm like I don't know how massively different those two names are within the language, but to my ears, that's not a huge change. That's not reinventing yourself very much. But
Mm.
I am culturally unaware. Maybe the name change actually is uh like a considered one.
Yeah. Can I also ask about? I don't know if this is present from the beginning or it appears during her transformation. But what's up with the tattoo on her on her?
On her
Uh,
cheek, the
yeah,
cross.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They never explain it, do they?
Hmm.
They never
And
make mention of it.
I don't think that the real Gangubai had anything like that.
I mean,
Uh,
does she have it in like the opening scenes, uh, like where she's like back in in her origins before she left her home? Does she have the cross
I
on her cheek then?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Neither can I. Shit, that would have been worth writing down.
That would have been, yeah.
That
I thought that I remember watching, thinking, what's that tattoo for? Maybe if I keep watching, I'll figure it out, or maybe they'll say. And no, it
yeah,
didn't
no,
happen.
never rolls back around, does it?
No.
Yeah, well, maybe we should have looked it out. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. Uh, maybe it's some kind. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I have no idea. No
There we
idea.
go.
I
Dead
couldn't
end.
even have. I'm really trying to like come up with something profound, maybe. And I'm like, you know what? I've just got nothing. I've no
Nothing.
idea. I've got nothing. Um, but yeah, I would be interested to find out if it has any significance, or perhaps maybe that's just Alia Bhatt. Maybe that's just the tattoo she has. I don't know.
Yeah, I was also thinking that's possible. She just, uh, I just feel like having this for the film. Okay, and then that's it.
Yeah, it happens, I'm sure. Um, so yeah, let's. So like from this sort of point, she starts like to be challenging, doesn't she? She's challenging the Aunt Sheila. She challenges men in the street who bother them when they're just trying to have some R&R time. Uh, and like that's where like the sort of girls feeling safe around her really begins. This is where Gangubai Rises starts.
hmm
Um, but then there's this violent customer, right? There's a and it's made clear that Aunt Sheila is sort of banking on this customer to be violent with Gangubai to sort of teach her a lesson of like stepping out of place, basically. Um, and like I don't feel that was ever really explained. Do you? That why is this guy? I've written down violent customer, but why and what for? Like, what's he doing, and why is he doing it? I don't understand. Is it some weird sex thing? Because he pulls out a gun, so
Hmm.
it's like, are you just beating her up? Is it a sex thing? Like they don't really make it very clear. He's just violent man, violent man. It's a violent man.
That
They,
was a bit messed up. Like I haven't really seen that before. Because like it kind of it's a bit different from the rest of the tone of the film, but it's
yeah,
important. It's very important to get to that topic because there's a lot of violence against prostitutes. No one's there to stand
yeah.
up for them.
Sheila was going to permit it again.
I
Um,
I think that's also like another thing about why Gangabai is kind of important. She's a bit of a change from the previous the madams before her. They'll
yeah.
probably permit whatever, but she just like no, I'm not gonna let that shit happen. Can't let
She
that
be-
guy in.
she becomes a boss bitch.
Yeah, she's not letting any bad shit happen. Uh,
Yeah,
Also, this guy though, this aggressive bastard guy, is important because it's around this point I think where Gangubai asks for help from Rahim for the first time, isn't it? And she kind of gets his backing, like he's
yeah.
kind of a
Well,
well-known gangster.
yeah, but just before that, we see her at the hospital, and we see how she gets minimal treatment because she's a prostitute, and they wheel her into like a storeroom or something,
Hmm.
so she's out of the way. And they're just like, "All right, we'll come back and check on you at 8 a.m. and tomorrow," and they just sort of leave her in there. Um, and then like I think did she have like I think her wounds were like healing slowly or something, and then that's when she goes to see your man, and he wasn't gonna help her at first, but then she shows him. the wounds that he left on her, and that's when he goes, "Yeah, okay, you know what?
That's not okay.
That's not cool. All right, I'll be your I'll be your protector." Like she befriends the right guy.
Mm.
She definitely befriends the right guy. This woman befriends all the right people in exactly the right moments of her life that she needs them, it would seem.
Yeah.
But it also seems that in the one pivotal moment in her life that she befriended someone, it went really badly for her. So, swings and roundabouts, I guess.
Yeah. There's another very important relationship we need to discuss in this film.
Wait,
Afshan.
is that the young boy,
Yeah, from across
the
the
pretty
road.
one? Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So this is like a real Romeo and Juliet kind of romance, isn't it? Like they're looking at each other, from window ledge to, and they play a game of poker or something, like long distance poker, to see if he's allowed to go up and bang her.
yeah, basically.
That's it. That is it. That is it. If you beat me at poker, all right, you can come up and
Yeah.
and uh, we'll get real jiggy with it. Um,
I did feel that she like this guy really? She could have anybody and she picks the guy across the street. I thought he looks a bit like a loser selling saris and like she falls in love with him. Like really? She,
Loser.
and
Well, I
and then she
mean,
spends a lot of time just like pulling him along basically. But also he doesn't like her drinking and stuff. Um, but then, more importantly, we have to talk about this. She arranges him to be married. Uh,
right, yeah, okay. Let's talk about that.
yeah.
So that lad obviously is in love with Gangubai. Like
Mm,
he's smitten, and like I get it that Gangubai is meant to be this completely self-sacrificing. Like she always martyrs herself, and like she's totally selfless, and she is, if she sees, okay, I can help this kid get out of prostitution, but the only way I can do it is marry her off to the man I'm actually in love with. I'll make that sacrifice. And it's just like, do do you need to make that sacrifice? Like,
mm,
you could have found another dude. Do you know what I mean? You could have just found another dude, I think. I feel like it was I felt bad for, what's his name?
Afshan, I think.
Afshan. Feel bad for the lad. Man fell in love, and then she literally, like, he thinks he's about to introduce her to his parents,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Here, I brought you a wife," and
She's she's also, by the way, about 15 or something.
yeah,
Which
she's only 15, and she proper sells her on it, doesn't it? She's like, yeah, she's never been touched. Here's like a fuck ton of gold. You should do this. And like, obviously, we know that certainly back then, arranged marriages are not like are a very normal thing.
mm,
So it was she made them an offer they couldn't refuse. I'm telling you, it's just
well,
Godfather.
yeah. But then there's something else I need to mention about
Go on.
Afshan and him getting arranged marriage. So at the end of the film, there's this like big parade for Gangubai,
Oh yeah,
uh, and we see Afshan, and he's with
and
his wife,
and
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 she's
the
pregnant,
wife. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
he's like waving at her and everything, and I'm thinking like, so is he actually happy then? Like, so he went through the
I
marriage and
guess.
he's happy. Like, is he not still in love with Gangubai? Like, does he like he
I
still
mean,
respects?
I think he understood that Gangabai was too big for him.
It's interesting. It's interesting. That's all I'm saying. Uh,
Before we go any further in the story, let's just get past the fact that the violent bad guy, the violent man, when he comes back, um, Raheem, is called over, and he beats the ever loving shit out of him, like to a bloody pulp on the hood of the car.
Yeah, I think that's the most violent part of the film,
For
actually.
sure, I think so too. Like it's the most explicit violence we see. Like I think the sexual violence towards Gangubai is far more suggested than this scene.
Yeah, you
This
don't
scene
really
is
see much.
explicit. Exactly. This one is explicitly, I'm caving a man's head in on the hood of my car, and then when he's done, he just sort of turns around really slow motion, like puts his sunglasses on, and the music, like electric guitars, start rattling. Like yeah, it was a pretty badass scene. I think that might be my favorite scene because it's definitely the most, because I wasn't sure what the tone was of this film. I felt that film that I felt this scene. It was like you caving the man's head in, but then you do this like turn back with the sunglasses. Like it was so corny, and I wasn't sure what the tone of the film was setting out to be. There was a lot of points where I wasn't sure if I should expect a little flavor of RRR or like, because it's definitely not like that. Like it takes itself way more seriously than RRR does. But like there were these, could I say melodramatic moments that felt maybe, I thought that they were sort of being meta in a way, but maybe they weren't. Maybe they were just melodramatic. Um, like I say, I was sort of confused what tone they were going for. About halfway through the film is when I adjusted to, oh, okay, this film's taking itself seriously. Like it's not trying to be, you know, maybe a little bit tongue in cheek like RRR is. Because RRR obviously tackles really sensitive subject matter as well, but does it with a sort of hat tip to the audience. This one doesn't do that, but I did think this scene was a bit wink to the audience.
Yeah, yeah, but
I
it
mean,
had to be. I think it needed the violence there, doesn't it? Like the guy
yeah,
has to be punished for his
yeah,
behavior.
it needed to be like because it needed to send a message as well that you can't fuck
Mm.
with Gangabai at this point. Like this like public beating also serves towards Gangabai's status within the community. Like no one's going to fuck with her from this point. You know, even the Sheila, Aunt Sheila, she has taken the hint at this point that like she can't really step up to Gangabai.
She's a protected person now.
Yeah, and then not long after is when Sheila dies.
Yeah, and it's like yeah, it's very important. I think for the rise of her in
Mm,
the industry in the criminal world to make that connection because then she was always in like an alliance with Raheem,
mm,
untouchable from that point onwards.
yeah.
Shall we talk about next? I can't remember exactly the order
Uh,
of the film. I actually had to watch this film, like break it down to chunks because I was so busy like the last few weeks, last week, sorry. So I had to like watch like a half an hour here and half an hour there. So I can't remember completely the order of the film. But I remember one we have this main part. So after Gangubai becomes like a madam of her brothel, there's this is an election happening in like the
yes.
neighborhood, and I'm not really too sure if this is a political election or something else. I was a bit confused
It's meant to be for the president of
of the neighborhood,
Kamit
right?
of Kamiprithra, or whatever, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
a neighborhood thing.
but yeah, but again, like you so rightly say, like I'm not sure if this is like more of a social thing or if it's like proper politics. But it seems that it is proper politics because she does get invited uh, to speak to the prime minister. She has that big public speech at the end.
Mm.
So it does seem that it is a legitimate political platform that they're competing for. But the other like the person that's already in power is this person, Razabai.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Razabai just looks like a quintessential villain in like a Disney movie. Like I felt. I tell you what she reminded me of. Have you seen 300?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't make that connection, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. That's what this person reminds me of.
Xerxes.
Xerxes, yeah, Xerxes and 300. That's what Razabai reminds me of. Now, uh, like again, like because this Razabai has a huge following. People are chanting their name while they walk down the street, or they carry her, but like they're chanting her name.
Mm.
Now, are we to assume that Razabai is also a prostitute or a
I
mamacita?
It's possible.
I'm
I
not
think
sure. They definitely
well,
don't specify it in the subtitles, but I
yeah.
I assumed so because she had the nose piercing as well, which seemed to be what was like the sort of visual indicator for working women in the movie.
Hmm. I think that is I think it's yeah, I think you're right. Uh it's interesting as well because so the actor is obviously a man, so they're a cross
Yeah,
dresser. But did you notice they always refer to Razabai as her, which is interesting.
yeah. There
Yeah.
you go then. I was trying to be gender neutral with my pronoun use there, but yeah, there you go. Uh,
It,
so yeah, but Razabai does have a massive follow. They don't make mention of the fact that that she's a
yeah, they
man in
don't.
drag.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not relevant. It doesn't seem. It doesn't seem to be relevant anyway.
It just
But
is
again,
what it is.
it just is what it is. But in all fair, I do respect that sometimes these subtitles don't reflect the true translation of
Yeah.
some of these films.
That's
I
also
do
possible.
respect that. But uh, but to be fair, Brother Badass will help. I keep forgetting his name. Brother
Raheem.
Badass, Raheem. He's still going to help out Gangubai with her like campaign. So
Yeah.
there's never really you never really feel like she's ever going to lose this election. There, like because I would have liked it that this because we have a scene where Razabai comes to a restaurant and like proper tries to intimidate Gangubai.
Mm.
I wouldn't have minded it so much if this Razabai character had been like a central threat throughout more of the movie. I would have quite liked that. I thought she was a really good sort of imposing obstacle within the film, and she's not in it very long. Like not really, like in the grand scheme of things, they really set her up. They really build her up, but then her part of the story is sort of finished quite quickly.
Yeah. I think that's partly because there's so much of her life to get through. There's like we can't spend too much of the film going through
Well, yeah,
this part.
yeah, but that also again brings into question how long a period of time are we talking about for this story?
Yeah. I think it's probably a few decades, to be honest. I probably by the time uh actually I can find out.
Was
I
it
don't
so? Are we saying like she's a teenager when she first gets sold,
I
and
think
then
so.
by the time Sheila dies, it's been like 10 years, and then like
Possibly
another 10 years on from that, maybe.
because I can see that so she died in 1977. So probably not much later than she had her conversation with Nehru, the prime minister.
Mm.
So, but I can't see when she was born. But I do feel that probably she was in this industry for a very long time, and the events of this film took over probably 3 or 4 decades, maybe we could be talking.
It's
So
possible, but like I say, as you mentioned earlier, the film really doesn't make it clear, as as to how long we're talking.
yeah,
Um, yeah, hard to say. Hard to say. But yeah, but to be fair, you're quite right. I feel like that's the events that do happen, they've got to happen over a longer period of time. So yeah, just based on the events of the film, we could I think you're right. Maybe 20 years. It's
at
possible we're
least.
talking 20 years. Maybe from the age of like 17 to 37 is like the bare minimum we could be talking.
I think so. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, what were we going to say? Yeah, the police do raid Gangubai, and that was something that Razabai set up.
Because she was selling alcohol from Rahim, so she could get
Yeah.
enough money to beat Razabai in the election. Which I actually really appreciated that whole logic, because that really does seem
Mm,
like something that would happen. Like, yeah, like in these, it just feels like anything out of a crime film. So I appreciated that how
yeah,
that worked.
yeah, I like that too. I really like that. And then like, I also like because obviously we'd had the ultimatum from Razabai, and then Razabai's got a speech that she's doing, like she's going to do a public talk, and Gangubai sabotaged it, and Gangubai's the only one that shows up, and she just sits there and like, it's like, okay, you've come into my house and intimidated me, but here's my message to you, basically, like,
Yeah.
and that's basically the last time we see Razabai, and I think it's a shame because I thought they were a really good character.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
It,
straight after that, we find out that she won the election, and then the
and the
plot
plot
sort of
moves on.
yeah, the plot pushes forward,
Yeah.
um, and like we're getting to like Gangabai doing public speeches of talking about equality and stuff at that point. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's a shame because I did quite like Razabai as a character.
There was one line where the police raid her
Mm,
because she's been selling alcohol. They have to get their cut because you're doing another get their cut for their prostitution, which is illegal. But now you have to pay up a little bit more because it's another crime there, another thing I should be arresting you for. You got to pay more for that. Uh, and she lifts the mattress and gives him money that's under there, that's ready. And she says something to one of the officers who says, he says that Razabai wants to talk to her or something. And she says to him, "You used to be a policeman. When did you become a postman?" Like something like that.
yeah,
I thought, that's a quite nice line.
she's showing strength to all forms of authority at this point.
Yeah, 100%. And
Is
she's
it
able to do it.
is this the point where she just calls home, and then we get this scene where she speaks to her mother, I think,
Hmm.
and uh, her mother's just not interested in talking to her because, oh yeah, they say she's been gone for 12 years at that point.
Aha.
I've written it down. Yeah. Oh, okay, so we know from up until that point it's been 12 years, and the parents are not happy. Well, the dad's dead and the mum's not happy, uh
Not
because
even
this is the first.
interested in having a relationship with her daughter.
Not even interested. Now, don't get me wrong, I felt bad for Gangabai, but I couldn't help but think to myself, like, I mean, if you've known her phone number this whole time, I mean, I am kind of with the mother. Like, why did it take you 12 years to give her a call? Like, if you had access to a phone, why haven't you called home in 12 years? Like, okay, I get like maybe you feel shameful or embarrassed that you ran away from home and trusted someone that you couldn't trust and all this stuff. But like, I can't help but feel that like if you called home 12 years ago, maybe your parents could have helped you out.
I
I don't
think it
know.
was I think it was shame. She felt shame that she was a
Maybe.
prostitute, and then felt that she couldn't reach out to her family.
Hmm. So she gets this like news that her family don't like her, and then she finds out that the her friend is pregnant, and
Mm-hmm.
like she has a look on her face like she doesn't really know what to make of it, but she knows that she's going to like help be a mother. She knows that much, and then she goes and has a dance out in the street, just a little dance,
Mm.
and I think it's the best song of the film. This scene, it's that one where it's I'm not going to attempt to sing any of the lyrics, but it's that like dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 da. I don't know if I'm doing it very well, but if you remember if you remember that song, I like that one. And yeah, she has a little dance, and then she just suddenly stops dancing and fucks off. Like she gets everyone into the dance. She starts throwing people's purple powder in the air, and everyone's circling around to watch her. And then at one point, she's like, "Right, fuck this, I'm done," and she just stops dancing and fucks off.
Yeah.
And like, I, so what we said earlier about a lot of the music numbers being written into the story in a way that it doesn't feel like it's just thrown in. This one for me felt like it didn't. Again, though, it's Bollywood style, but for me, it just feels like a dance that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you on that one.
But to be fair, it does help inform. Like the scene does help inform Gangubai's sort of what's going on in her head at the time anyway. So it's not like it doesn't serve a purpose. It's just it does feel like she's just suddenly bursting into song and dance.
Mm. But still, like, just like one moment really of that in the whole
Yeah,
film.
yeah. To be like, you know what? I'm only nitpicking. In all fairness, I still like we haven't rated this film yet. We will rate it in a bit because we're nearly done. But like yeah. I'm going to nitpick while I can because once I lock in my rating, that's it. It's locked in.
Yeah. So
Um, we
should we move on to what happens next after this point? So I
so
think by
well
this part
next
of the film,
we find out that they're going to like try and evict everyone in the area.
yeah, oh yeah, the school, I think it's a Catholic school. There's a priest, I think, who's
It,
in charge of the.
yeah, it's a Catholic school, and uh, they're protesting to end prostitution. Um, but there was also like a meeting that she has with Brother Badass and some other like official, and they're saying that I think he says that they're going to build skyscrapers or something.
Mm,
Um, so I'm not sure. Like there seems to be two sort of points of entry. One set of people are trying to get rid of them because they just don't like prostitution in the area, and it seems like the more government officially people want to get rid of them for like construction purposes.
yeah,
But
make
but
use of the
no
land.
no one wants them around. Basically, no one's interested in them sticking around. Um, and this is like we get a scene where she takes the kids to the school, basically blackmails the school into into not being dickheads because like don't they deserve an education? But then in the very next scene, uh, they come home from school because the teacher hit them and said "fuck off" or some
Mm,
shit. But this is where she meets that journalist dude, and he's like the next big help in her
yeah,
life from this point on because he's going to make her like a public figure.
he gets her. He gets what she's trying to do,
Yeah.
and he basically elevates her voice, like
Mhm.
allows her to reach way more people, which
Yeah.
is a massive thing.
Because like there's a scene not too long. I think there's a scene towards the end where they talk about like how far her influence is now stretching, and it's further than Kamitapura. It's like all these other districts, further out. Like her influence is spreading further and further. So so yeah, like he's like an amplifier for her, isn't he? You know,
Yeah,
he gets her heard.
basically makes her famous, really.
Well, because he puts her on the cover of his magazine as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's the main article of that month's Vanity Fair or whatever it is. India's answer to Vanity Fair or Time magazine. She's on the cover.
Yeah, and then that's
And
really the turning point where we go from uh, kind of being a gangster and controlling the neighborhood to making some kind of social change. Like,
yeah.
let's have a conversation about prostitution. You know,
Mm,
uh, why we can't just shift, like this whole area has to stay here, and like put the possibility. Well, actually, it's almost. I think that he mentions. I forgot his name. Fezzi, I think, mentions it's
yeah.
about women's rights and prostitution is one of the main topics. When they have this big talk thing, and I forgot my point. But I think I was going to say something about how like we need to have this conversation. We can't just we need to bring the people who are
Well,
involved into the
yeah.
conversation. We
I
can't just make them invisible. They
this is it.
exist.
I think yeah. I was going to say. I think your point is basically like you know they were trying to basically say you can't sweep us under the rug anymore. You
Mm,
know we're here. We have a voice. We want our rights. You know, as I said earlier, like they mentioned that they can't even get bank accounts because of their profession. So they're not remotely protected by any kind of system. They exist outside the system, and this all comes up in her monologue at the end where she's basically saying, that for them it's just their profession. She even does that the thing that you always hear, that prostitution is the oldest profession,
yeah, yeah,
that always annoys me. That I'm sure there were other professions older than prostitution, that's for sure. um, However, it's a question of dignity. It's a question of integrity. It's not a question of are these people in the right or the wrong. It's a question of whatever you think of them, they are entitled to their
they
integrity,
are
their
people,
dignity. They are people, exactly. They
and
shouldn't
people.
have to fight for their rights. They should
Yeah,
simply have rights, simple as.
yeah, and people will continue to use them. Men will keep going
Yeah,
there. They have rights, but these women don't. Many of them are
e-
forced into it anyway. So
exactly. So it's up to us to make that profession safer for them. Is
exactly, yeah.
basically. Um, so her friend dies at this point
Mm-hmm.
because she has a baby and then like goes septic or something and dies. And they have this shot of her dead in the room, and all the women in the brothel, they're just around her, sort of, just, everyone's got a hand on her. And then Gangubai, is sat watching, and she says, "Tie her legs together because men can't be trusted even with a dead body."
Mm.
And it's like, she'll have her dignity in death. We're not allowing her to lose her dignity anymore. You know, and yeah, that was pretty powerful stuff. I really like this movie, Craig.
Yeah, it was a good film. I'm happy we watched this
Yeah,
one.
I think when she has her speech, what does she say at the end? She says, "Tell them that when Gangubai came, I didn't speak with my eyes looking down on people, but my head held high." And then everyone gives her a standing ovation. Um,
Yeah, I do feel that because at this scene, she says a few things that make the audience laugh, and which
yeah,
wins them over a little bit. But I feel that in the subtitles, the humor was lost a bit. Did you feel that
yeah.
as well?
This is it. In the subtitles, it was all just self-deprivating. Like they weren't jokes. It was like, "I'm a prostitute," and everyone laughs. It's like, yes, and in my profession, things can get a little bit dirty. I
Oh,
I forget what the dialogue was now in the subtitles, but yes, I quite agree. the jokes were not jokes in the subtitles.
Yeah,
It wasn't
something
very
was
funny.
lost. There was
Yeah.
also something odd I noticed. Did you notice? I'm not sure how and where you watched this film. I can guess. But did you notice that the microphone was a bit blurry? I was like, what's that weird
No, I
odd
didn't.
effect? Like, I think I
I mean,
saw.
it's was the shot just playing with the focus a little bit?
No, no. There's like so below what do you call the microphone stand? There was this kind of
Uh,
like I don't know, look at like a C facing down, the like a C-shaped
no,
thing,
no
and it was a
idea.
bit blurry. I was like, why is that random shape blurred out for? And I don't know why. I think I was just like looking up pictures of Gangubai now, and I saw that there was a picture of from this scene, but it wasn't blurred out, and I think it said something like Chicago something on it. So for whatever Chicago radio or whatever, I don't know what it was. And so I'm wondering if there was some legal reason they had to blur out uh, this. It's the only time I noticed that in this whole film, by the way.
Hmm.
Nothing else like that. But I just thought it was a bit odd.
Yeah, maybe it is for a legal reason. It's possible. Some films don't even try and cover these things up. They'll just put like a bit of black masking tape over a logo and be
Mm.
done with it. You know, like every movie that just has cars driving around with no license plates. Like it's just world breaking for me. But sometimes they're just like, fuck it, we can't afford to make it look realistic. So it's just we're just gonna blank it out.
You just like
Um,
you lose like oh yeah, I'm watching a film. This
yeah,
is
exactly.
yeah.
I think we're pretty much done now, man. I mean, she finally gets to sit down with the prime minister. She doesn't legalize prostitution, but she does bring the conversation to the forefront, uh, where women are getting and the women in the jobs are getting more rights and the jobs becoming safer.
Mm-hmm.
So she does have she does it is a victory overall, but she doesn't. I don't think she does get it legalized, but
No.
maybe decriminalized for the women. Perhaps it's hard to say. They sort of just end the film with a big celebration, don't they?
Yeah,
We
like a
don't we
street
don't
party.
really yeah we don't find out what the outcome was. We just but to be fair, the outcome isn't really the story, is it? It's the fight that's the story.
The victory is that okay, we can start trying to talk about this now.
Yeah, that
We're
is
not
the victory.
invisible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. um I like this line. I've written it down. She refers to the prostitutes of Kamitpura as a garden of black roses.
Yeah, yeah,
And
there was something on this.
yeah, now look, I haven't looked this up or anything. I haven't even. I just want to like discuss it because I think that's a really on purpose line, and I think it's quite nice. It's quite lovely. A garden of black roses, um, and I wonder, is that just the person doing the translation for the subtitles, or is that a is that an accurate translation? I just think it's a rather lovely line. I quite like it. Garden of Black Roses.
Mm.
You know, as I say, it's because the whole point of the whole film has been these are people too. They suffer. They also bear children. They feel pain. They live. They die. Whether you respect them or not. They deserve dignity, integrity.
All
So
people deserve.
yeah. So to be referred to as a rose, regardless of its color, but to be referred to as a rose, I just thought it was a very nice way to end the film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've discussed everything now with this one.
Yeah, that's it. Even even Razabai rocks up in this
Yeah.
celebration at the end to show pay her respects. So yeah,
Putting
you know.
aside the differences of before, like, okay, yeah, I don't like you, but you made a move there.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, that's Gangubai. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
should we give it a rating, Craig?
How many
Uh,
prostitutes out of 10?
how many prostitutes out of a brothel? Uh, how many prostitutes can you fit in a brothel? 50?
I have no idea. It depends on the brothel.
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm trying to base it off this movie alone. It feels like there's a lot of because there's a scene where there's a power outage, and then it's like everyone get a candle, and then we get to see just how many prostitutes are in the area. Like there's just candles fucking everywhere
well,
flickering.
I think at one point they mentioned there's like 4,000 women in this neighborhood, don't they?
What? Oh, so are we to go 4,000? So let's say so out of 4,000 prostitutes, Craig, how many prostitutes do you give this movie?
Oh, or probably we shouldn't be measuring it in prostitutes. Maybe we're being a bit insensitive now.
Let's,
uh,
let's measure it in prostitutes. Let's measure it in body
Black
piercing.
roses. Ah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do how many? Yeah. Okay. Say that again.
Black Black roses.
Okay. Let's do it out of black roses. So how many? How many black roses out of a garden are you going to give it? And you know what? I'm not going to put a cap on this. You just tell me how many black roses it gets.
Mm, that's tricky. We have a rose garden at home. I can't. How many roses? When you say roses, do you mean the flower of the rose, or do you mean the whole rose? Like, is that the plant, or is it the flower of the plant?
I mean,
Tricky question for you.
I,
Pedantic.
let's just go with the red bit, or in this case, the
The
black
black
bit.
bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I give it black roses.
How many black bits?
Black bits. I'll give it a good 100. I'd say.
100
Out of
black
the,
bits.
yeah, it's a big garden.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's good. I'm going to give it like 400 black roses out of a garden.
Okay. Then I'm giving it 4,000. Then
Oh
screw
shit.
you, Tobias. Don't make me look bad.
Okay. Let's both go for 4,000 black roses. One for every prostitute in the area.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Clever.
yeah. Let's do that. But yeah, okay. IMDb rating out of 10. What you giving this one?
See, like I always try to when I watch films like this, I really try to think of it like on a historical
Yeah.
level, like the
Yeah,
influence that it's
absolutely.
gonna have. And I think this is a massive step in Indian cinema and a big story that has to be told.
Yeah.
There are some things in it that are a bit odd. Some things that I thought could have been done a bit differently, particularly I think the timeline of events is a bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing. I like if a film is super influential. I'm usually willing to let that go under the rug and just accept it because the film is so important. So I'm gonna give it probably maybe a 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10. Oh.
And you?
I'd rate it higher. I'm gonna give this one an 8. I really
Ah.
liked it. I really like it. I think it's a quality little film. I think the acting's superb. I think the cinematography in some places is a bit janky, but overall, I found the cinematography quite impressive.
Hmm.
I really like the direction. I do agree with you that the period of time, it there's something about it that just like it could have just happened over the course of like a year based on how different she looks from the beginning of the film and the end of the film. She barely changes in appearance. So, but her demeanor definitely changes, and you definitely get the story told through her performance for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I will penalize it a little bit for that, but I still think that it was directed brilliantly. Um, but I think you have to sort of give it a few allowances for the translation because you sometimes a translation it just doesn't have the same impact. Like if you just spoke the language, the dialogue might not come off as strange or
Yeah.
janky. So I'm not gonna go into dialogue issues. I think that would be unfair. I'm just going to say, I really like the movie. Excellent, 8 out of 10. I definitely want to see Alia Bhatt in more stuff. And you know what, Craig? I think I want to make I want to make this a regular thing. I want to start watching some more Indian cinema with you. Let's go down this rabbit hole. So anyone out there, any of our Indian audience wants to suggest us some films, again, comment down below or get in touch with Craig on Twitter. Craig is the Twitter man. So go get on Twitter and tell Craig what you want us to watch, because we don't really know much about Indian cinema, do we? Not really, not in the grand scheme of things. So it'd be nice to have someone tell us something good to watch next. I do think we should do some more SS Rajamouli stuff, though, Craig. That's for sure. Got to do him. And there's a couple of other films that I'm aware of. I just couldn't tell you their names off the top of my head. Swarades, I think, is one that's meant to be quite good. So there's a few that I think we can watch.
Definitely.
But yeah, let us know, guys. Get in touch with us at Twitter, at Film Shrapnel, capital F, capital S, and let us know. We are all ears. We'd love to hear your suggestions.
100%.
I think that's about it, Craig. Thanks for coming out. I've really enjoyed watching this one with you.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Cheers to many more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Things to look forward to. I think coming up soon. I'm not sure, but I think one of the next ones that you guys will get to listen to, Big Trouble in Little China, is coming soon. I'm going to announce it here. Big Trouble in Little China is coming to the podcast, and it was a really good fun film. We've recorded it already, but that's going to come. I think it might be the next episode. We'll see. All right. Thanks for listening. We are Film Shrapnel. And Craig, do you have anything to say to the lovely listeners out there?
No.
Okay. Cool.
Bye. Keep listening to us. I hate intros and outros. Just like, if you like us, listen to us. Bye.
All right. Okay, that's the new sign off. Thanks, everyone. If you like us, listen to us. Bye.
Bye.
Shrapnel.